Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan, support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday, and we actually have a thought piece scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday. So definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today our topic of discussion is education, and we're going to be covering education that starts at home. And on the conversation on education today, we will be continuing the dialogue that we started on Tuesday. We talked a little bit about a framework that we should be using when it comes to agreeing to the expectations that people place on us. And I want to continue that conversation by empowering you to be autonomous in the way that you manage expectations when you're striving to meet the agreements that you've made with other people. Because at the end of the day, it's not a black and white science, like life happens. And so as a byproduct of that first video, I wanted to follow up just so that I can give you a sense as to how you can give yourself autonomy to make shifts and changes to agreements based on changes in circumstance and situations. I mean, sometimes I think we overcomplicate the way that we engage and navigate and interact across these verbal agreements, contracts, considerations with one another, but I think that there are certain givens. There are certain truths that are unspoken that some of us act on and others of us do not. And I think that it is education that starts at home that not all of us receive. So I'm here to give everyone a bit of a baseline. So without further preamble, I'm going to jump into the 3 things that I think enable you to maintain autonomy and flexibility when it comes to wanting to meet the expectations of others, taking into consideration the fact that life happens, situations change, contexts change, circumstances change, and all of that needs to play into the way that, you navigating sort of the terrain to meeting the expectations that you've agreed to. So that said, when it comes to meeting expectations that people place on you and wanting to be true to your word, you have to also keep yourself in mind. Sometimes when it is the case that we agree to those expectations, there are certain things that we assumed were going to be in place, were going to take place in order for us to be enabled to strive to meet those standards that we've put on ourselves and that others have placed on us. And then situations and circumstances change. But sometimes we don't feel inclined to give ourselves the room to also shift and change the conditions, the terms of those expectations to align with this new reality. And I think that we all need to just maintain autonomy to do that and to do it unapologetically. If situations beyond your realm of control are now in place that make it impossible or hard or unnecessarily strenuous and stressful for you to meet the expectations that you initially thought were going to be easy to accomplish, then by all means communicate that, and everyone should be understanding and flexible. If the circumstances in the situation changes, then like we all still want, I'm assuming, a common outcome, a common objective. We can work towards how we deal with whatever has come into play, whatever is now needing to be taken into consideration in order to get to that goal and objective. And sometimes in order to do that, if it is the case that we're dealing with a little bit of resistance, then it's important that we give ourselves permission, again, unapologetically, to change the standard. And I think this is something that so many of us feel so uncomfortable doing. But again, this isn't about going back on your word. This isn't about having a change of heart for no reason in particular other than, hey, the terrain, the circumstances, the environment, there are so many factors that have changed. And because of that, it's changed the way that I'm able to manage my time and energy to meet the expectations that I initially agreed to. And that is okay. And it's okay to change the standard unapologetically. I mean, have a conversation, be colloquial, be cordial. We don't need to be rude or unkind about it. We don't need to be unnecessarily abrupt about it or abrasive either, but we also don't need to be apologetic. I'm not someone who, if I'm changing the standard, it's because I feel required to do so. And I'm unapologetic about it because I'm not doing it because I feel like abusing power. I'm doing it because it's the responsible, realistic, and rational thing to do. And if I'm dealing with someone who kind of sees things in the same light, and I will do what I can to make the argument so that they will, then both of us should be aligned and making the shifts and changes so that we can both accomplish the things that we had initially set in mind. But again, with this new normal now being taken into account, now being taken into consideration. But sometimes you need to be the one to kind of put your foot forward and be like, hey, like we need to change this standard. I get that this was the initial standard that we established, but given X, Y, and Z are now different, they're now changed, or these are things that we didn't see as being, something that we needed to take into consideration, but now we do. Like, we need to change the standard. Here's what I have in mind. Happy to work with you on figuring out next steps. And lastly, and this is a theme that I covered in my first as well as my second point, but again, I think it does need reiteration. Circumstances. All of us like to think that we have this, control over all of the factors that are going to come into play when it comes to sort of the pathway towards meeting an expectation from the point that we agreed on it. But I think that sometimes we need to just be realistic about the things that are beyond our realm of control. And even sometimes with certain people who are fairly rigid and you know that about them, it's important to just say, hey, like, I'm happy to agree to this expectation, but if these circumstances change, then the agreement will also need to evolve and change. And sometimes just having that conversation at the onset can shift and change conflicts and avoid conflicts moving forward. So I think that it's very important to sometimes explicitly maintain hey, if situations and circumstances change, then again, we need to come back to the drawing table and reestablish what appropriate expectations we can have so that we're still aligned, that we're still moving forward, and we're still accomplishing and achieving these objectives. And again, a lot of this information that I'm sharing, they're things that I think I take for granted. They're not conversations I've really thought to have explicitly because I just feel like, hey, we all want to accomplish certain things. These objectives are things we all have in mind. These goals are things we have in mind, but there's so many factors beyond our realm of control. Let's be nimble, let's be adaptable, let's be flexible in order to get there rather than rigidly uphold a set of expectations that life is telling us needs to shift and change. So I wanted to come on here and quickly have that conversation, give you that insight, give you that foresight, and also empower and enable you to have those conversations again unapologetically, because you're not abusing power. You're just saying things as they are, because sometimes it is simply what it is. Now that is it for now, but definitely not all. Now before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events that give you unlimited access to our live events, no less, as well as well as access to webinars and workshops over and above those live events, largely focused on self-mastery. So definitely check out the website, take a look at the packages that we have available, and be sure to purchase the one that best aligns with your interest and your level of engagement. Now, if you are concerned about pricing, please don't be. We have implemented a new payment solution, Afterpay, that gives you the opportunity to make payments in 4 installments over a period of 6 weeks, rendering all of our programs and services more accessible to you. And yeah, so definitely be sure to check that out. If you're still here, subscribe to our channel, follow us, give us a like. We appreciate every single person who is part of our hashtag game changer, hashtag Zen warrior community. And education, again, starts at home. It doesn't necessarily need to happen in a formal academic environment. And hopefully this is food for thought that you can put into practice in your own life. So that's it for now. Looking forward to chatting with all of you again very soon. We'll talk to you later.
I just feel like no one's listening.